Now's your cue,
Welcome.
dude.
There it is. Welcome to California Free Radio. I'm Kurt English. I'm here with Scott Piotr and soon to be appearing is Mike Netter, who's on assignment. And if you looked at the Netter News at @NetterMike today, you would have seen that the California Republican Party has asked the U.S. Supreme Court to intervene in the Prop 50 case where Gavin Newsom and his California friends want to steal 5 congressional seats. But Republicans in some states like Indiana are unwilling to do anything about it. And Scott, it's time for a little bit of a rant. We've got to look at what's going on in our world and our country and call out some people who are not acting in the best interests of their fellow Americans and their fellow human beings. We have mass migration that globalists want to use to take away the freedom of people and suppress Western civilization, our culture, our Constitution, and Christianity. They are importing third world primitive people into Europe, into America, into Canada, Australia, and New Zealand with the purpose of destroying their culture and undermining our legal systems. They are committing crimes. There's rapes and killings, Joshua Nungaray, Laken Riley, and who is responsible? The Democrats are responsible, who refuse to enforce laws they don't like. And I have a message. If you get to decide which laws you can pick and choose to follow, then I want to do the same thing. Scott, I don't want to pay federal income tax anymore.
Hey,
If
I
it's
like that
fair
idea.
for illegal aliens to make those choices, it should be fair for us to make them.
Hey, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, why can't we pick and choose the laws we want to follow, Scott? It's outrageous.
So tell me, I mean, you're more of a constitutional scholar than I am. What's the difference between, excuse me, what the South did in secession, you know, and what the sanctuary states are doing today? They're picking and choosing which laws they want to
Well, it's
comply with.
even worse than that, Scott. The sanctuary states are picking and choosing what federal laws that their whole state follows or their whole city. So, again, what if we decided that federal gun laws don't apply to us and we're going to own machine guns and all the implements of war and we're not registering our guns? Are they okay with that?
Well,
How about if we don't pay federal income tax, Scott? What if Elon Musk said, well, illegal aliens are in our country. Why should we pay federal income tax? How about that one? Is that
so
okay?
you had this FAFO on the corner of our screen. It's kind of like, okay, if you decide not to pay state income tax or you decide not to obey California gun laws, they still have the power of the police to come and do something about it. I mean, we need to have tens or hundreds of thousands of people all doing the same thing so that we overwhelm the system.
Kind of like Cloward and Piven,
Well, you don't
overwhelm the
want them. You don't
system.
want the tax man and the franchise tax board has by reputation as one of the worst tax boards in the entire country to deal with. They are Gestapo-like in their enforcement of tax law. You don't want them knocking on your door and confiscating your assets without due process, which is
They
what
don't
they do
care
all the
about due
time.
process. In fact, the franchise tax board is threatening to pursue people who moved from California for 10 years to extort state income taxes out of them, Scott.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Now they want to charge an income tax if you leave the state.
Yeah,
Forget about earning the money
I
there.
think there should be a liberalism tax.
Talk about the billionaire tasks.
Well, there's a proposal by the Service Employees International Union where they want to circulate a petition to have a one-time, what they call a wealth tax. And if you're a billionaire, meaning you have assets of $1 billion or more, they want to just take 5% of it. Now, if you look at the Fifth Amendment, Scott, that is an unconstitutional taking. You don't get to take people's property. That's called theft. And that's the kind of stuff that starts.
Wait a minute. It's a duly passed tax by the legislature that we elected, assuming that they're not cheating and counting dead people's votes, which is
No,
another
this would
topic.
be an initiative that would be circulated.
That's true, but it's still a duly enacted law. So
It doesn't matter. You cannot have a duly enacted law that's an unconstitutional taking without just compensation.
Right. So it would have to be challenged to the Supreme Court. So
And it would, and there's it guaranteed would be.
they're talking. Well, there's already about half of the billionaires. We're talking tens and hundreds here. We're not talking thousands of
Yeah,
people.
there aren't that many of them.
There aren't that many. And half of them have left the state before January 1st because this initiative, which is already circulating, is retroactive to January of 2026. So there are a
Well, and
lot of
that's
people
another
that
legal
moved
issue,
their
Scott.
assets out before the end of the year.
Scott, that's another legal issue as to whether that's constitutional as well. Because if you have retroactive laws, what if you decide who your political enemies are and you pass a law that says if you did this act in 1975, 50 years ago or something, we're going to execute you? Is that reasonable?
Well,
No.
yeah, they have the Constitution protects us against ex post facto laws, uh, but whether or not it would be something that can apply to the calendar year that it's adopted in, is probably debatable. But when are the Democrats going to miss a chance to take some of our money? If they
Well,
can.
I think now you're getting to the real issue is the Democrats want to grab as much as they can. They don't understand that money belongs to the people who earn it, not the politicians who steal it.
No. You're not understanding this right. The Democrats believe that the money is all theirs. It's just a matter of how much of it they let you keep.
Yes, we don't agree.
Yeah, nor do I. But that's their perspective. It's a collective, after all. You didn't build that road. We did that road. That's how your business was successful because we did all of this stuff. Bull crap.
Well, that was what Obama said. You didn't build that. Well, actually, we did. Obama never built anything. He was lazy and a thief, and all he wanted to do is take from other people. And you hear that Obama's wife, Michelle, says she avoids white-owned businesses. Did you hear about that?
I think that would be a pleasure, actually.
But think about, what if someone said to the Obamas, well, we avoid black-owned businesses? Could you imagine the hue and cry?
Oh, yeah. Don't you know that black people cannot, because of the fact that they're black, be racist?
No, that's not true.
Well, that's their claim. And there's a lot of people that believe it, mostly black
Well,
people.
there are also people that think it's okay to storm into a church in St. Paul, Minnesota, because you don't like the people who are there. And remember the FACE Act, where they were throwing people in jail for peacefully protesting in front of an abortion clinic? Well, this week the radical left was invading a church in St. Paul, Minnesota, and screaming at the people and essentially violating their civil rights. 3 of them have already been arrested. But because of the liberal privilege, homosexual former journalist Don Lemon from CNN was not arrested because a federal magistrate,
Not a judge, a magistrate.
a magistrate whose
Pretend.
spouse was involved in some left-wing lunacy, refused to sign it. Their job, that's an administrative thing. So if you refuse to sign it, you're pretending that your job is to make decisions for the Attorney General of the United States. So this is just another example of how liberals think the rules don't apply to them. And we're their serfs and their slaves, and we just have to do whatever they say. Because after all, there are no laws, there is no constitution, there is no rule of law. They just get to tell us what to do. And
Well, of course, they're the ones in charge.
Not just
They
becoming tiresome.
They also get blamed.
No, it's not just becoming tiresome, it's becoming unacceptable. And so if they want to continue down this path,
unacceptable for a long time.
Well, but if they want to continue down this path, we're going to start having more vigorous responses.
I think that's probably fair to say. Hey, Mike Netter's on location, and I wanted to bring him on in so he can give us an update. Hold on a second while I do that. Hey,
Hey,
Mr. Mike.
everybody, it's great to be here. I'm actually doing something I've wanted to do my entire life, a broadcast from a cabana in Beverly Hills. Yes, indeed, I'm live at a mixer where it's really noisy. It's called the DC Mixer. A lot of fun people here, hopefully some with money, but you didn't say, I didn't hear that. In a cabana outside by a pool. Gentlemen, I was listening to the opening here and I want to add to the rant, if you don't mind, even if you do, actually. Everybody, by
Mike
the
ranting? Oh, that never happens.
Yes, and by the way, remind everybody the show is blasting live. Share away on my X feed at Knitter Mike, and certainly on LinkedIn, our Facebook groups, etc., etc. But Kurt, I want to start with what you were just talking about, because here's a shocker for you. I actually read the billionaire tax, including the legislative analyst report. And Scott, I'm going to say something very painful right now. Are you ready?
Sure, go for it.
Kurt was right. Damn it. On
Mhm.
Article 2 of the Constitution, you can't do a federal asset tax. However, the state of California, that's what this initiative about, is looking to change the Constitution so they can do this. But you know, gents, there's a couple catches here. If you read the actual, first off, the legislative analyst report, not a shock, it will result in an ongoing decrease of revenues. Yes, you heard correctly. Why the Democrats are practicing smash and grab politics, spending more, they might get a little bit more money. Hold, please, but it's going to result in in a very quick, long-term result in decreasing revenues. And wait, there's more. Although 70% of the money goes indeed into healthcare, we're not sure exactly what that healthcare is. It doesn't specify what healthcare funds, and it says X percent. And there's another exciting catch to this. That is after administrative fees. So, for all of you out there, and I have some leftist friends that call me and go, we can't wait to do this to tax the billionaires. What you're really doing, the administrative fees, are going to go to Dun-da-da, the heads of the SAIU and members of the state employees who are in cahoots with the SEIU. So if they collect indeed $100 billion off of this, probably approximately $10 billion is going to be split behind the bank vault, if you will, by the actual and members of the SEIU and the government. And if you don't believe me, read the actual proposition and initiative, which many people don't. We don't know where the money's going. We don't know exactly health care for who, the underprivileged, but we're not sure where that is. And you guys remember, not too far from Beverly Hills, about a year ago, there was a really big fire here, and there was fire aid, and we didn't know where the money went?
Oh, I was shocked. It didn't.
Yes.
It didn't go to the actual purported victims.
And this is really fire aid too, is what this comes down to, except they're calling it a tax. Let me also, okay,
Mike, no one is talking about that in the media or even in talk radio or on cable TV.
no,
What you
they're
just
not. I
said
talked
about
about
the
a
what we'll
right,
call the graft tax that's going to
right.
the SEIU.
They're not, and that's interesting that they aren't because we're kind of beating the same old talking points about the billionaires moving out, which is where the decrease in revenue comes in. But on many of these initiatives and bonds, and I've been talking about this for years, the really big challenge is that you don't look at the fees and things associated with them. And that's why this is a one time tax. And everybody knows they could drive the tax down to your house, et cetera, et cetera. But more importantly, where's the money going? It's not specified in the initiative, doesn't say fund X, Y, and Z. And also, this is after administrative costs, which is fairly common for these initiatives that the left puts out, by the way, which is how they get so rich. So you're right. No one is really talking about it, Kurt, and they probably
So
should.
this is another example, Mike and Scott, of theft of government funds by the left, like USAID, like the Somalian daycare scam in Minnesota, Ohio, and San Diego that we talked about last week. This is just another financial fraud scheme to enrich liberals.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. Gavin Newsom has gone there kicking and screaming, like when he came back from Davos, saying he is totally against this. But I got a very strange question that I talked about on radio. Here's the strange question. Gavin Newsom and Rob Bonta had no problem suing Howard Jarvis to keep an initiative that we passed to cut taxes off the ballot. So if Gavin is so against this, were him and Rob Bonta suing ahead of time to keep this off the ballot? Back to you, gents.
Well, I think you know the reason, because their SEIU and the unions control the Democrat Party in California.
But somebody should challenge Newsom on that, which is exactly, by the way, another thing I've talked about. Newsom isn't good when he's challenged in a two-way conversation. He's kind of good at talking. Yeah,
Well, he's too busy promoting his new knee pads.
oh my God, don't even get me started on that. Let's talk about Prop 50 and what you did in the case there. So our case now, and help me out here because again, I'm out by a pool here. What is January 27th, is it? Or what date is that?
Today's the
29th.
22nd. By the 29th.
By
Week
the
from today.
29th, California has been ordered, the state of California, to respond to the Supreme Court, meaning it looks like the Supreme Court, and I've been instructed to say looks like, certainly nothing's a given, that may hear this case and understand, well, that's funny, um, understand that that means there's no oral arguments here. So that dissenting opinion that I believe Judge Lee put out, which was pretty strong, the only one of the three appellate that sided with us, we're looking like we think we, you know, it's we're not looking good, but we're looking decent is probably the best way to put it. So that was a big thing today. The emergency injunction that we asked for. Again, I'm one of the plaintiffs. And in the tonight's edition of Netter News, we did put that update. We did a nightly edition on that.
Yeah, just so that for our listeners that may not remember what it is we're talking about, Prop 50 was challenged in court because the contention was by you as a plaintiff and others that it was drawn based on race, which the Supreme Court said you're not allowed to do. We actually had quotes from the guy who drew the maps saying that he wanted to get more brown people elected, and he was paid for by the Democratic Congressional Campaign. What is it? Congressional Campaign Committee, the
Correct. The
DCCC.
DNCCC, the Democratic National Central whatever committee. I forget. There are too many C's
Congressional
there.
Campaign Committee, yes.
All right. And they actually paid Paul Mitchell directly, page 294 of the deposition. That, Scott, I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm sorry to cut in. Well, I'm not really, but I'm trying to be polite here. But it's actually really cold out here. This is really a big takeaway. Another thing that the news isn't covering. It wasn't your legislatures that you've elected, even whether I like them or not, who did this. It is actually the Democratic committee outside California paying a map maker who won't tell us what his intention is. And that was the judge's big point in the dissenting opinion that he put in court. So everyone out there, forget the hyperbole that Gavin Newsom again ranting and raving. The really big takeaway here is you Californians, when you vote on something, outside forces are coming in and ripping it away from you. And whether you're right, whether you're left, no matter what the hell you are, when we vote on something like the death penalty, Gavin Newsom shouldn't have the right to take it away from us. And when we vote on something like independent commissions, for example, we shouldn't have outside forces come in and toy with it, especially by people that under any process we have not elected. And I think we also talked about, too, speaking of elections, really big Supreme Court decision came down, in case you don't know, that mail-in ballots may not count. This is going to be a very, very, very interesting cycle here.
And just again, so that everybody knows, you filed a lawsuit. It went before a federal judge, and
Panel of three, the appellate court.
Panel three, because you're asking for an emergency injunction, and in a 2-1 vote, they decided, nah, there's nothing to see here, and so you submitted to the Supreme Court just yesterday asking for an emergency injunction, and that's the next process. You went right from the appellate court to the Supreme Court. And the positive news is, hey, they're asking for information from the state. They still haven't granted cert, but they may, and it looks like at least they're keeping their options open.
Well,
Correct.
the negative is Justice Kagan is the one that they sent the petition to. Was
That's okay. Yeah, actually, Kagan's interesting. Now that you brought her up, she actually has been voting lately for a couple conservative things. She actually voted with a couple sides on election, with the conservatives, Kurt, on election integrity the last two rounds. And I actually gave her thumbs up, believe it or not. So, and again, the judges are the judges, but she actually is voting for election integrity, or not voting, but whatever they call it in the Supreme Court, siding with the things that fall under the law, like mail-in ballots. And she also sided with the one, in fact, she might have been the deciding vote. That means candidates and the public have standing to basically sue a state government after the election, and she sided with that. That was actually a really big turnaround, Kurt, this last round, just to let you know. So I don't want to make too much fun of her because she may be changing my case. But anyway,
That's okay. We'll make fun of her for you.
yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, we can do it for you.
Two double-digit IQ if she's lucky, and even a blind squirrel finds an acorn every once in a while, and she may end up on the right side of the issue. Not that her vote mattered in the issue, but it's always nice to have her on the right side occasionally.
So anyway,
next week we hope to be able to bring you an update saying that, hey, this thing's progressing. I mean, Gavin Newsom basically, when they won at the appellate court level, laughed at the Republicans, laughed at their foolish lawsuits, laughed at the fact that, we never win anything and he always wins everything. And at least that's the perception he wants to give us anyway. So it's kind of fun to watch him kind of, shaking his boots a little bit.
Gavin Newsom has some really between Davos. And by the way, if government officials elected are not drug tested, we elect them. But if an initiative ever was come up, which is probably constitutional, to drug test our elected officials, I really suggest you watch Gavin's rant about the knee pad thing at Davos. It is really expletive deleted weird, and there's no other way to put it. Again, he's got some mic shoved in his face. He's on basically worldwide television with no opposition against him, has the chance to say what he wants. And it sounds like somebody you run into outside a bar at 3 a.m. Not that this ever happened to me, but in my younger days, let's just go with that. That you go, holy crap, this guy should not be driving. Certainly no less governor of the state of California. Really take a look, and I know many conservatives, I'm giving you a painful assignment. Take a look at Gavin Newsom's rants. Look at his body language sometime. And I'm not being accusatory here, but if he's not on drugs, he better get some, because it's very, very strange activity when you watch him when he has a chance to quote the Allman Brothers, ramble on. Okay, it's very scary, and it
Who was he
strikes me
talking about needing knee pads, or that was using knee
just
pads?
that world leaders shouldn't be whatever. But I want to come back, that they need knee pads, stop, basically.
Well,
bowing
remember,
down to
Scott.
Trump.
Remember, Scott, that Gavin Newsom's the guy that slept with his best friend and campaign manager's wife. So, sex toys are not something that is outside the purview of his experience, shall we say.
And by the way, start looking into your lower officials. We'll be doing future shows on that. But got to remember, Gavin Newsom is the product of being a mayor, a supervisor, a mayor, a lieutenant governor. And you really do need to take a look at your state senators, many of your state assembly people's current price this week. I didn't put it in my newsletter. I think I did a couple weeks ago. is in court and he's still a councilman in LA. They haven't even suspended his pay. They don't get suspended in Los Angeles until they get convicted. So they've worked their way up the fraud and bribery chain, and has been put out by a lot of people. If you think Minnesota is big, let me tell you, baby, it's not even a flea on the elephant to the apparent fraud which is taking place in California. And it's easy to blame Gavin because you know who Gavin is, but you have to understand this is systemic. It's working its way through the system. It takes place at the state levels, the local levels, all kinds of levels, and it's very well documented, just like you're seeing in Minnesota, except California is much bigger. There is so much I could say about that picture that would probably get me kicked out of Beverly Hills, or maybe admitted to a party I don't even know in Beverly Hills. What the hell do I know?
Yeah, but it might not be a party you want to be in.
Is this a better picture?
Oh yeah, that's just great.
Anyway,
Anyway,
Now, what is that? Oh, gross.
before I leave here tonight, because I've got to get back to what I'm doing here, I want to remind everybody that the CEO Act, the School Choice Initiative, Save Prop 13 are things you need to sign. And on the newsletter, I'm putting them out every week. Voter ID is about there. Carl needs just a few more signatures for the guarantee, so to speak, de Mayo. But we're getting stuff done. And yes, that emblem, as you know, we talked about last week, has been seen everywhere. In my newsletter this morning, I actually did put out, this went worldwide with the White House, and Dan Bongino and everybody else, including Fox News, retweeted it. And so, actually, at the event I'm at tonight, people go, I know you from somewhere. And you know what I did? I went, they go, oh, yeah, there you go. So,
you're the guy. You're the
I have to,
guy.
I have
You're
to
the
put up my
guy.
Well,
hands like
as
this
opposed to
everywhere to
the
go.
post office wall, that's good.
Yes, exactly. They get me going and coming. Um, So, a couple quick things. Kurt, you're absolutely right. And that's a very important point that Kurt, I want to talk about again. That Kurt, Scott has the best photos. That you brought up that under the federal constitution, an asset tax or forfeiture seizure tax, I believe it's Article 2, it might be Article 1,
No, Fifth
is
Amendment.
no.
You
It's
can't.
actually, it's in the initial constitution. You can't do that. Okay. Maybe additional Fifth Amendment. I'm not going to argue with it because I'm not that bright. It is only states have the right to do it, but they have to change the California Constitution to do it. And so this it is getting challenged to court. And right now, I challenge everybody. You've got Gavin's number. You've got Gavin's email. Ask if he's ranting and raving that he's against it. Then why the expletive deleted? Does he not sue the SEIU? Show some guts. You think you're going to be president and you can't stand up to a bunch of screaming liberals for a union which is causing things to be overpriced? Gavin's not showing guts at all. We know he doesn't have them, but it's time to start calling them out. We've got about a year more left of his reign, and then we're going to get a new governor, but the time to act is now. Gentlemen, what have I missed?
All the good ones. How you like the Sparkle Beach Ken?
Oh, that one's been all over my feeds today, yes.
Yes, I'll bet it has.
Yeah, but not everybody
Well,
reads your
and
feed,
by the
so we're
way,
giving them a little
if
benefit.
a gay guy is calling you the sparkle guy, that's pretty humiliating.
So
So
who's
much,
calling him the Sparkle guy?
Yeah, it was Besant, who's the Secretary of Treasury.
so much to be done with it. And again, for everyone out there, really start paying it. You've got to help us spread the show. At Netter Mike again. By the way, gents, I'm going to break 6 digits in followers here, maybe even tonight. So I'm pretty proud of that. On LinkedIn, at Mike Netter, at TaxFighter7, on our Facebook groups, spreading the word is so important before I leave to getting this out. And the reason again we talked about some of my posts going viral isn't because of me. Well, maybe a little bit. What the hell? It really is because
Oh, that graphic. Ooh, I wish I hadn't seen that.
that's
That's vile.
Yes, thank God I already have have children. Anyway, gentlemen, I've got to go because the party is starting to move out here towards the pool, and it's getting loud. So,
All right, Mike, enjoy your hoity-toity event with the billionaires that are still left in California.
I'm gonna, and everybody out there, if you have a used duffel bag, please ship it to my house so I can bring it to the next party, just in case I see something I'd like to take with me. Remember, it's California. Gentlemen, have a good show. California Free Radio. We keep on rocking.
All right,
Thanks,
Mike, have a
Mike.
great time tonight.
I guess I have to take him out. Oh, he hung
Yes,
up.
you do.
Okay. Fun, fun, fun.
Fun for everyone.
So, did you know that today is the what is this? The 53rd anniversary of Roe
53rd
v. Wade?
anniversary.
Roe v. Wade. That terrible, terrible Dred Scott type decision that allowed abortion basically at any time for any reason anywhere in the United States, regardless as to what different states
Well,
thought of it.
only for a portion of the trimesters, not the entire 9 month.
Well, it later became basically interpreted to basically allow it everywhere and for anywhere, anytime. Certainly, there were some states that were successful at limiting it a little bit, like not during the third trimester, no late-term
Right.
abortions where they scramble, suck out the brains, and collapse the skull in order to bring the baby
Oh,
out.
that is just evil.
Yeah, it's just
Well,
fantastic.
and by the way, liberals today, some of them want to call it abortion 28 days after a baby is born. That's murder, Scott.
Oh, if the baby was born due to a botched abortion, then it's okay for the California passed a law that up to 28 days afterwards, that medical personnel would not be deemed liable if they did not render aid or assistance to that newborn baby. If it was from a botched abortion. I figured I figured out when I was running for assembly last year, the only abortion that liberals don't like is a botched one. And what gets me is that a couple of things. One is Black babies and babies of color. For those liberals who like to sit there and brag about how they stand up for people of color, there's more abortions performed on people of color, especially on a per capita basis. But certainly minority babies now, brown and Black babies combined, make up more than 50% of today's abortions. And that's according to Planned Parenthood's Guttmacher Institute, which is their propaganda arm for abortions. And they're saying that I think the number is up to 59% of abortions performed are performed on brown and Black mothers. And which is it's basically what Margaret Sanger dreamed about at the beginning of the 1900s in eugenics, to eliminate the inferior races, and specifically in her mind that meant brown and Black babies, to eliminate them from the let's say the sperm stream,
the gene pool. Yes,
the gene pool, and and that was her purpose. Little did she know she'd be realizing that 100 years later. Did you know that? Now, okay, so that brings us to one of your items. Our buddy Newsom sat there and put forth his idea, anyway, of not granting extradition to Louisiana, because Louisiana found a doctor that prescribed the chemical abortion, the morning after pill, to a Louisiana mom, and she took it and killed her baby. So Louisiana is saying, hey, this California doctor violated Louisiana law, and so we want him extradited to stand trial. in Louisiana. And California said, nah, I don't think so. They actually have a law that specifically provides sanctuary for any doctor or medical personnel that provide abortion services to people in another state, especially people in another state where abortions are banned. So Louisiana and their duly elected officials made it illegal to do chemical abortions. And, California basically flaunts it and flips them the bird and says, screw you, we're going to abort, we're going to kill all your babies. Anybody that wants to have their baby killed, call us, we'll send you the drugs to do it. And so,
that's interesting. So they're sending them across state lines, so that it becomes a federal issue.
It does. And in fact, states obviously cooperate. They want to, when it comes to extradition, right? They all want criminals that hide in other states to be given to them and back to their states. So it's very rare that extradition is not granted when a state requests it, because you don't want all the bad guys coming to California.
But now it's about liberal politics, Scott.
And now that supersedes. Well, the liberals want to release criminals anyway, so they probably don't even bother asking for extradition. If the criminal wants to go to another state, more power to them, let them stay. Whereas, people in Louisiana, as an example, don't want that to happen, and so they want the criminal brought back to stand trial, in front of a jury of his peers. And California is flipping them off. Did you know that by Guttmacher Institute, you can see here on the screen that 76,000 abortions were done via chemical abortions, 2 states that ban chemical abortions. And Guttmacher's bragging about this, and this is just what they are putting forth. So, who knows how accurate these numbers are. My guess is that it's probably low because, well, on the other hand, there's a good argument that says it's high because they want to brag about all the abortions that are being granted. But to me, there's 76,000 murders that were done, that counts of murder, and I don't know how many doctors or prescribers that would have been involved, but they ought to all stand trial, and they ought to all, if found guilty, pay the price. You can't do the time, don't do the crime. Lock these suckers up where they belong. And any politician that wants to hide them, just like sanctuary states, they don't want to comply with federal law. They don't want to comply with Louisiana law. They just ignore it, and they don't do it. Tell me what's the difference between, Jefferson Davis and the secession of the South and these sanctuary states. Like you said in your beginning rant, what if we decided that, hey, we're just going to do whatever we want to do as far as guns and taxes, and we're not going to pay any taxes to the state of California, and we're not going to listen to their gun control laws. We're going to do whatever the heck we want to do. Do you think California prosecutes gun dealers who sell guns that California bans across state lines? Hell yeah.
That would go very poorly for you if you did that. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you go online now and you want to buy, let's say, a suppressor, something that keeps the noise of your gun down, not very much, but enough where, hey, maybe it doesn't hurt your ears as much when you're hunting or something like that. And but suppressors are illegal in the state of California. And so if you sell a suppressor to a California resident, they won't ship to California. You go online right now to one of these suppressor sites, they will not ship it to you if you live in California. You've got to ship it to another address and smuggle it in on your own. And if you get caught with it in California, you will get fined, you will get arrested, you will be put in jail. But, you want to kill a baby? Go ahead.
Yeah, but if you're an illegal alien, they won't follow the law or turn you over to federal law enforcement agencies. Because
I wonder if an illegal alien brought a suppressor into the state, would they arrest him?
Oh, that's a liberal dilemma, kind of like free pork for an Islamist.
If a California resident were sending out the abortion pill, it's a free ride. If it's an illegal alien, yeah, I like that idea. Maybe we ought to find an illegal alien to order this stuff online.
Oh, there you go.
I wonder if the website, if the gun dealers would start having a category. Oh, if you're a California resident, I can't ship it to California. And you have but I'm an illegal alien.
I'm an illegal
Well, then
alien.
it's
Oh, we can
okay.
do it then. Sure.
Sure, no problem. What address do you want us to send it to? Yeah, that would be a blast. So,
no pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a list of the Black and Hispanic babies combined, and this was from a while ago. This was from 2008. It's an old graphic, but they're just like I said. Combined Black and Hispanics have, I think, up to 59% in 2023 of abortions were provided by them. And by the way, for those liberal wackos who think that when Roe v. Wade was overturned, which didn't stop abortions, it didn't make abortions illegal, it just put the restriction or the ability to restrict back to the states like it was before Roe v. Wade. There were actually more abortions performed in the last 2 years than have ever been performed in this country ever. So,
well, that should make liberals happy.
It should. You know, the good, if you can call abortion good news, I guess you could say that one of the benefits is that liberals tend to abort their babies at a higher rate per capita than conservatives. So they're literally removing themselves from the gene pool.
Well, then there's that.
All right, what else you got?
All right, let's talk about some petitions that are being circulated or threatening to be. The Service Employees International Union also wants to circulate a petition to raise the tax rate on corporations that have CEOs that they think are making too much money. Did you hear about that, Scott?
Tell me about it.
Well, just what I said. If they don't like what the CEO is making, that corporation pays a higher tax rate. So what do you think?
Who determines that?
The
head of the
obviously
SEIU,
the state of
or what?
California. So what's going to happen, Scott, is we've already driven billionaires and some of their businesses out with a billionaire tax. Now we're going to drive out more companies that could employ people from California, because the CEO is going to say, hey, I'm not reducing my pay to make the SEIU happy. We'll just take our business to a red state and operate there. And when California companies leave and take their employees, think of all the taxes that no longer get paid in California by those employees. Think of all the sales tax that no longer gets paid. There's a cascading effect of dollars leaving.
Hey, that's why Gavin Newsom has won the U-Haul Salesmanship of the Year for the last 4 years running. Salesperson in 21, Salesman of the Year. It's our buddy Gavin Newsom driving everybody normal out of the state of California. Unless you're an illegal alien, a homeless drug addict, you are not welcome. And if you're a rich white guy, if nothing else, he'll just burn you out of the state.
Like the Palos Verdes fires, where nobody's being allowed to rebuild. Well, you know more about that from personal experience. All right, there's the voter ID initiative. Looks like it's heading to the ballot, unless there's some significant skullduggery, which Democrats are always capable of doing. However,
I've heard. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go.
I've heard polls on voter ID that if it makes it to the ballot, it has a good chance of getting about 70% of the vote or more. I mean,
yes,
it's hard
even in Democrat states that's been happening. That's true, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, even the Democrats sit there and, not the Democratic leaders who want to cheat. And face it, like you see Elon's tweeting this a lot on X, like almost daily. But basically, if you don't want voter ID, it's because you want to be able to cheat.
Yes, that's correct.
End of discussion. Every Western civilized country that allows voting, which kind of puts them into the Western category, they all have voter ID except the United States.
Well, but think about what else you have to have an ID to do. Try to open a bank account, and they're gonna give you, uh, an inquisition. Try to get on an airplane, and now you can't just have a regular California driver's license. You have to have the special California driver's license just to get on a stupid airplane.
Hey, my wife, her cousin is unfortunately suffering from dementia, and we had to put her into a facility that is a great facility, and she's doing really well under it. But we had to change her mailing address. Well, we found out she hadn't had a driver's license for the last 10 years. She never traveled out of the country, so she never had a passport. She had no current ID. And so we wanted to just change her mail where it gets delivered, and they wouldn't change it because she had no ID. I mean, we ended up contacting all of her bills and banks and everybody else and let them know, but you can't even get mail delivered to your house without a voter ID. It's ridiculous. And so how can a liberal be against it unless he wants to cheat? There's no
Well,
other
you just answered your own question. They want to cheat.
Yeah. So the good news is it looks like this is going to qualify in California. And the good news on top of that is this, it is likely to pass, even though the other side will spend gazillions of dollars and we won't have hardly a dime to spend on our behalf to sell for it. And, it does kind of crack me up. This is a little bit of a test, Kurt. What is the leading argument by liberal wacko Democrats
That women
arguing
and
against voter ID?
minorities won't be able to vote, like that jackass Sonny Hostin made on the stupid show The View.
So what she is saying is that women and minorities are too stupid to be able to go down to the DMV and get an ID.
That's what she's saying, Scott?
So
even though she is a woman of color,
and she falls heavily into the stupid category.
Yes, even though she claims to be an attorney, I can't imagine how she could have passed the bar unless she had somebody else take it for her.
Well, we don't want to accuse her of cheating.
I
but
I can't imagine.
She
seems
to like
is a speculative statement, Scott.
She wants to cheat on voting. Look, we are a country of the people, by the people, for the people, and we choose our leaders. Imagine what would happen if we have no confidence in the voting system and we don't believe that our vote counts and we don't believe that we're able to actually choose our leaders, that some minority is out there cheating and making those decisions for us, whether we like it or not. What recourse do we have? What's the next step after that?
I don't want to live in that society because that's a very unstable society.
It is. You feel like, you go and you work your butt off and you run for election and you lose and you lose and you lose. And then you realize it doesn't matter who the opponent is. They're cheating.
Yep.
And if they're cheating, then what's the point? You may as well be running against Putin. And
what's the point? You got it.
If you're no longer able to vote and select your candidates, your voters, your representatives, then is free speech really there? Isn't that
we saw under the Biden administration that people were who protested peacefully on January 6th were persecuted like in a Nazi Germany.
Yeah, and then we took Schiff for brains and we boosted him from a congressman to a senator after he abused all of the J6 protesters.
Well, and they had that fake committee, and then they destroyed all the evidence.
Yeah, that was always
that nice. That kind of tells you the lack of legitimacy right there. You wouldn't have to destroy the evidence if the committee was on the up and up.
So what do you think about our ICE agents and putting their life on the line all this time?
Oh, you mean while they're being doxxed, their families are being threatened? We need to prosecute everyone who threatens law enforcement, every last one of them.
So did you know that Trump has only deported about 1.5 million people?
Only. That's a funny number. Only.
How many people did Clinton deport?
Many more, but he's been in office more years. Yes, and Obama the same thing.
So Clinton deported almost 15 million people. I saw it on the internet. It must be true. Obama had deported somewhere between 7 and 8 million people. Did you see any protests? Did you get any headlines from CNN about abusive ICE agents?
No,
Or
it shows you how
oh,
biased the liberal media is, and how all of that reporting could arguably be a campaign contribution that's unreported.
well, I would argue that they know that they can't win elections unless they cheat, and one of the ways that they're cheating is they're having illegals vote, and
They're voting
they
for them, yes.
and they have to change the voter or the electorate over to people that will vote for them, because the people that are here are wisening up to them and they're not voting for them. So it's the only way that they can continue to win. Their political life is on the line, which is why they're fighting so bad to protect drug dealers, rapists, pedophiles, murderers that are
Well, and
related.
Scott, you bring up illegal immigration. There's been a lot of news on that. We touched on the intimidation at the church in St. Paul, but right here in California, there's a bill that would allow lawsuits against ICE agents. So typically, as you know, police officers are immune from lawsuits like other government officials in performing their official duties. Now, there's exceptions. If you murder somebody, if you act in bad faith, if you act beyond the scope of your employment. But generally, you
Or if
can't
you're
sue a government official because you don't like what they do. But the purpose here is to make people not want to be ICE agents through this intimidation and this bullying.
So California is proposing a law that would allow lawsuits against ICE agents.
Yes.
What about LA County and their ICE-free zones?
Well, yeah, they want to have an ICE-free zone where they claim to have the authority to restrict federal immigration enforcement. That's a great one,
Wouldn't that be like
Scott.
the Confederate States saying that
Yeah,
slavery is now legal?
Yeah, I kind of like that deal. How about if I can say that, just like a sanctuary city we talked about earlier, I don't want to obey the gun laws. Yeah, we can all agree on that, right, Scott? We can all agree that our city should be able to pass anything we want invalidating federal law.
Only the
Isn't
ones we
that
don't like.
why we needed a constitution and why the Articles of Confederation were not adequate to govern the country?
You mean because they were totally unenforceable? They were like suggestions.
No, because states were imposing tariffs on other states, and if you don't have what we have now is the supremacy clause in the U.S. Constitution, where federal law trumps, no pun intended, state law. The federal government has enumerated powers under the Constitution, and the states have all the power that the federal government doesn't have.
I love how the states were suing Trump in his first term to get him to not enforce immigration laws, and now they're the ones that are not enforcing immigration laws. They wanted, yeah, it's clearly Trump derangement syndrome at its finest here. So tell me about this vacant lot in Venice where they had 26 voters registered.
Well, as you know, part of voter fraud is this illegal migrant problem where they're having them vote, but it's just an empty lot where there's mailboxes, etc. We have all these people. I remember in 1996 in Venice there was a house that had I want to say 50 people registered, and it was boarded up, and it was a 2-bedroom house when Jane Harman got elected to Congress the first time. And then,
No, nothing to see there. I always tell people, do you believe in voter fraud? And these liberals knee jerk. Of course, there's no voter fraud. It's like, look, you'd have to be a moron. Do you believe in bank fraud? Do you believe in tax fraud? Of course, there are people cheating the system all the time, especially tax fraud. So for you to believe that there's no voter fraud, you'd have to be a dumb moron to believe there's no voter fraud. The question
now that
is,
sounds like a redundant phrase, Scott, a dumb
is
moron.
is there or a Democrat? Well, then I'm really redundant. The question really is there enough fraud that it can change the outcome of the election?
And the answer is yes in California. Look at all the close
Absolutely.
elections in Orange County that were tipped after Election Day by all those fake ballots.
Well, isn't it amazing? You're allowed to receive the ballots 7 days after the election, as long as it was postmarked on Election Day. And, all these little private meters, they can sit there and postmark whatever the heck they want to postmark.
Right. It's all fake.
And so you can set your own postmark. So they wait until the election day, find out how many votes they need, produce those votes the next morning, and stick them in a bunch of different mailboxes across the county. And all of a sudden, oh, miraculously, look, after election day, they count the votes. And the Democrat keeps gaining and gaining and gaining. And all of a sudden, surprise, he won.
Yeah, isn't it amazing how the Republican never seems to gain in those votes? It's always the Democrat candidate that gains. Well, Scott, we got a couple more illegal alien things. The incompetent, corrupt, lying California Senator Adam Schiff hosted a roundtable with illegal alien Sikh truckers who on California driver's license threats and the economic impact. So the Democrats want illegal alien truck drivers to keep driving on our roads and in roads in America, even though they can't speak English and are not allowed to drive commercial trucks. These commercial trucks are 18-wheelers, and they're basically murder weapons in the hands of someone who's not competent and qualified to drive.
80,000 pounds. And if they can't read the signs and they do illegal traffic moves and they kill people because, like you say, their truck is a weapon, they shouldn't be granting that. Well, unless
whose side is Adam Schiff on? Whose side is Adam Schiff on? Spoiler alert, not ours.
It's kind of like, okay, and then Eric Swalwell, he wants to revoke driver's licenses of illegal aliens. Oh, wait, not illegal aliens, ICE officers. It's like, okay, like, who cares? If you're an ICE officer and they revoke your license, it's not like they can arrest you. How stupid is that?
They're engaging in lawful activity that would most likely be struck down by a court, very rapidly.
He should stick with the Chinese spy Fang Fang and pillow talk with her, because he's an incompetent boob when it comes to anything else.
Well, Swalwell has always been a dim bulb. I mean, nobody ever accused him of being a rocket scientist.
Same thing with Gavin Newsom, right? Not a rocket
Gavin
scientist.
Newsom's crazy, if you think about it.
I'd rather not.
But I mean, he's there's something that's very off with him. Whether it's sleeping with his best friend and campaign manager's wife, or being a serial liar like Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell. Something about these Democrats in California, they are truth challenged.
So
but there's more illegal alien stuff. There's a DHS agent who was injured and shots were fired during an immigration enforcement operation in California. These Democrats are whipping up their base in a frenzy of hate, and people are getting hurt.
So what happened? DHS agent
the guy's trying to do an enforcement action. He got shot.
Did anybody else get hurt?
Just him, but hopefully the bad guy got arrested.
And it's pretty bad when he gets shot and the bad guy doesn't get shot. I mean, usually I would prefer it if the ICE agent not get shot, but if you were to get shot, I'd like to have the perpetrator be shot dead.
That'd be a plus, yeah. That'd be a plus.
Okay, you got 2 minutes left. What do you want to
All
tell
right.
everybody?
Let's see. Yeah, you mentioned earlier Swalwell, candidate for governor, wants to revoke ICE agents' driver's licenses. Gavin Newsom showed up in the Davos, as Mike was talking about, encouraging people to oppose America and Europeans to fight America. That sounds like treason to me, but we can have a discussion.
They talk about the Hatch Act, and the Hatch Act basically is you're not supposed to talk about foreign affairs, right, unless you're in charge of foreign affairs.
Well, I think that's federal.
And there was this kind of a unspoken agreement amongst the party, Democrats and Republicans, that you can go at each other's throats, but as soon as you cross the shore, as soon as you leave the country, you're united. You're united talking about the United States and behind the United States. You don't undercut the United States. And that's exactly what Newsom's doing. I mean, what's
and that's what Scott, that's what he intends to do.
Yeah, but at what point does he cross the line of treason?
That's a great question with a lot of what's going on right now. Like, look at this systemic Democrat fraud. There's accusations that California is going to lose $250 billion in federal money because of whistleblowers talking about systemic fraud in government programs in California.
You mean like our Leering Center in Minnesota?
Oh, the fraud in California allegedly is worse than the fraud in Minnesota, which is billions and billions of dollars, and that's a much smaller state.
Like a factor of 10 or more. Yeah, and a lot of citizen journalists are digging into it because the mainstream media is not.
And not just daycare center fraud, but also federal student aid fraud with students not showing up to class, or it's just a systemic fraud scam in California. It's shocking in a sense, but
yeah,
it's not in another sense, Scott. It's not shocking at all, because who are we talking about here? Democrats.
So I wonder how many of the vendors on the high-speed rail project, of which there is no rail, just a high-speed dream.
Just vendors.
All of these vendors and employees of the vendors, how many of them have made campaign contributions to Newsom and Democrats? I'm guessing, you add them all up, it's going to be in the tune of millions.
Probably pay to play, don't you think, Scott?
Well, they want to have the no work, don't worry about it, nothing's going to be checked contract. They have to.
What do you mean nothing is going to be checked? Tell us about that.
Well, that's exactly what happened. Already they're starting to find daycare centers in California. So Amy Reichert, who does a stellar job down in San Diego, we've had her as a guest on the show. She went to she got the list of daycare centers in her area, and she went and looked at the daycare centers. And here they are in the middle of the week, in the middle of the day, and it's supposed to have 28 kids, and it has 0. Nobody's out there checking on it. You issue a contract to the daycare, and you expect them to actually take care of 28 kids, but no one's out there checking to see if they're taking care of any kids. And that's exactly what happened in Minnesota. It's the same thing in California. And don't think it stops at daycare. I mean, how many of these contracts, using the high-speed rail as an example, they issue a contract to, design the wheel trolleys on a high-speed train. Does anybody check to see if the design's been done, or do they just write a check? I'm a project manager.
Well, I think, Scott, it depends on which party you're making campaign contributions to, don't you think?
Exactly. Pay to play. Like I said, I'd like to see an analysis of all of the employees, of all of the vendors on the high-speed rail, and I'd like to see how much they've contributed to Democrats and to Newsom and to Newsom's causes. I want to see how much they've had to pay to play. And that's
and what do you think the result of that would be, Scott?
Well, I think it's a bad investment by taxpayers, because we've probably paid $140 billion, and the Democrats have probably only gotten a 10 million or something like that from it. They're not getting a very good percentage return on the taxpayer dollar. If they're going to cheat, they ought to do a better job at cheating.
Well,
Nobody nobody would
then
actually
again, you're
invest their
talking about
hard-earned dollars that
Democrats
way.
here. It says, when do Democrats do anything well?
Yeah, I mean, face it. They don't care. It's not their money. They're spending our money to go buy votes so that they can do what they want to do and get away with it. You know, they're not going to be responsible to the voters because they cheat and other things that money gets you. And we're, you know, we already have the former chief of staff of Newsom being indicted. We People are saying that that's the tip of the iceberg. She was just the one stupid enough to get caught. You know, pay to play is illegal. So what do? You know, I'm going to give you this contract, but I really can't guarantee this contract's going to continue unless I get reelected. So anyway, here's the contract. Hint, hint, wink, wink. I mean, that's if they're being technically sly and not trying to make an overt quid pro quo. But you know, it's going to be obvious in a lot of these conversations. I wish we could have tapes of those things. But you have to realize there's no incentive for, let's say, an engineering company that's working on the high speed rail. There's no incentive for them to turn state's witness and go to the FBI and saying, I was extorted for campaign contributions in order to get this contract because, hey, they got the contract and they spent the money. Maybe they did some of the work, but they're there.
That's frightening. Maybe they did some of the work. Maybe they did.
Well, they're at the gravy train. What makes you think they're going to sit there? Pardon the pun. What makes you think they're going to sit there and want to come clean? There's no incentive for them to come clean because they may be in the cell next to Newsom. So they're, you know, the feds. Frankly, it's up to us as citizen journalists. By the way, Amy Reichert posted she would go to the state website to pull down all of the daycare centers that were getting state money. Guess what? Governor Newsom took them off the state website. So the daycare providers that are under contract are no longer on the website. So, I mean, you can do a FOIA, you know, they call it a Public Records Act request in California, PRA, and you can ask for those records. But, you know, would you be surprised if they lost them? Oops. How can we go back and check? We don't know where they're at. They were on the website, for crying out loud. They took them off because taxpayers and in citizen journalists were actually shining the light of day on their
Well,
stuff.
actually, they could subpoena those and get them. But yes, it's obvious that they're hiding potential fraud. Obvious.
Well, you can subpoena all you want, but if they've been shredded and disposed of, you're not going to get anything.
No, remember, everything on the web is available. It's archived.
They just call, you know, Hillary Clinton up and she'll come over with her household bleach and throw it on the hard drive and take care
All
of
right,
that.
a couple other things before we go. Surfers are now being targeted by a grand theft auto crime surge in California. So, Scott, you can't even go into the ocean without your car being stolen.
So a surfer drives up, takes his board off the top of his car, goes into the ocean. Somebody's watching and goes, that guy can't stop me. And they steal his car.
That's it. I don't think the Beach Boys were singing about that once upon a time, Scott, in California.
What do you want to bet it was an illegal alien that stole the car?
Well, there are illegal alien theft rings. In fact, there were illegal aliens that were coming in from Chile and other countries, and they were robbing houses, getting back on an airplane, and flying back to their country.
Let's see. So if you go and take a medical vacation when you're going overseas, what do they call this? A theft vacation? A burglary vacation?
I guess, yeah.
That's been a while, and a lot of Venezuelan gangs were doing that. I wonder if we've been successful in deporting some of those Venezuelan gangs, stick them in a cell next to Maduro.
Well, the question is, do we want to jail them here or just deport them and get their eyes scanned so if they ever show up again, we'll know. But a lot of these illegal aliens that are committing all these crimes have been arrested again and again and again, and Democrats don't care.
All right.
Time to wrap it up, Scott.
You know, we're sitting there, California Free Radio. We're behind the blue curtain. There's a lot of people that are trying to leave. Mike tried to point out today that in Chicago this week, it was minus 29 degrees. And so the question is, do you really, really want to leave California? Of course, I told him, I said, who would leave California for Illinois? It's like jumping out of the frying pan and going into the fire.
Well, the Rams went back to Chicago last weekend and won in the snow.
Soldier Field.
Yep. And are now playing in the NFC Championship game against the Seattle Seahawks this week for a chance to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so they survived the cold. It wasn't quite that cold last week, but last weekend, that is. So California Free Radio, we're trying to bring truth to behind the blue curtain. For those of us that want to duke it out, stay here and try and preserve what we've got before the Democrats totally ruin it. So join us next week, 6:30, same place, same bat channel, same bat time.
And you can see the feed or the replay at Netter Mike on X, or Scott, what's your X feed?
At TaxFighter7. You can go to either one, and this show will be on there. And tell all of your friends, spread the word. We'll see if we can cause problems wherever we're at as we're irreverently look at the Democrats.
Which is easy to do, Scott.
Well, they're irreverent. What can I say?